What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Patrick Carr Show. Listen, for the first time in a while, I've got multiple guests here. We're in Orlando, and I got some of my favorite people here. One I just met, and two I've known for a while. Tim, Jason, Brian, thank you all very much for joining the show.
Yes.
Listen, I'm telling you, if you are in the first-party claims world, if you are a contractor or a PA, we're hoping to bring some value here today.
100%.
And I've talked to you guys off camera, and Tim, it's a pleasure to get to know you and what you're doing. For those of you who don't know, Tim, you specialize in really the storm restoration world.
Yep.
Fire, water, mold, all that stuff. You really have done it all over there.
Yep.
You got companies that are serving throughout Florida.
Yep.
But also throughout the United States. I know you're a good friend of Jason's, and Brian says great things about you. For those people who don't know Tim, though, fill us in here, brother. What do we need to know about you?
So I think our big thing is, obviously we're here to help families and big disasters, right? And a lot of people don't realize, when you have a fire, it's totally different from a normal water damage, right? And I think the experience of having how to handle that claim, how to make sure that people are handled the right way is huge for us and for other people out there. Because a lot of people get into this business and are like, I'm going to do fire restoration, water restoration, and really learn the steps to get paid, make sure you do it correctly, and not missing, a lot of things. It's not like roofing is one space, right? When you get into doing GC work and fire restoration, mold remediation, it's really dialing into like each line item, and each step of that claim, because, you do mold remediation, a lot of guys, have a 5-page estimate and really dial into every single step. Even with PAs, a lot of guys, I read these estimates, I'm like, man, you guys are missing 40, 50, 60 items in your scope, and it's really, dialing into how to, scope the right way, actually being on job sites. We got a lot of guys who will come work with us for a day, and I'm like, hey, every step, you got to bill for that step. Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I, use bags? And so when the guys are writing scope, especially attorneys and PAs and restoration guys, they don't realize, there's all these little steps that you get paid for that is so important to, come and learn from guys that actually know that. You know what I mean?
Sure it is.
Yeah.
That's a good segue over to you, Jason. I think you might know about half the people in the industry that would even watch this show.
Yes.
You're a great connector, man.
Yeah.
You really are. But you're also a teacher.
Right.
You're out there teaching people right now about large loss.
Correct.
What are you doing out there? And, what do people need to know about the large loss arena right now? Because you're out there teaching contractors.
Right.
And Tim, you even mentioned earlier, you learned a lot or learning a lot.
Absolutely.
From Jason over here. So
yeah, Jason a mentor to me,
Wow.
Tim, you've been client for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
On the exterior restoration guys, which are basically most of the roofer, siding, gutter, fascia, soffit guys, there's 7 trades, right? On the GC side that Tim's in, there's 22 trades. So there's a big difference. There's a lot of levers to pull on. There's a lot more management. There's a lot more supervision. There's PPE. There's all sorts of different things. Mold remediation's a completely different bucket as far as coverages. So when you're dealing with large loss, it all depends. For the exterior guys, if they're just coming in to do the roofs and getting in and getting out, it's a matter of following protocol. But ultimately, the key is just finding mentorship, guys that have already done it, guys that know the systems, guys that know the processes, guys that understand how to read policy, or have someone in-house that can read policy, right? So the most important thing is understanding what the coverages are, finding out what the loss is, doing a correct scope, getting a ROM, which is a ballpark figure of what that loss is going to be, and getting that scope designed and written before the insurance company is called. You want to have first notice of loss. That's the most important thing. And then set the reserves correctly so you're not behind the 8 ball. So those keys alone, mentorship, processes, discovery, build the scope, then call the claim. That will make you very, very successful in this opportunity for large loss.
It's a game changer. It really is, man. Like, we started the process that Jason was teaching us and billing, and the way we did it, that we do it now compared to where we were 5, 6 years ago. It's just huge. I mean, getting paid fast, it's just that process right there is so big.
Well, the other thing is that not only does it build leadership in your company, right, but it also builds credibility with the adjusters, the CAD adjusters, the EGAs, So the executive general adjusters, our guys, or CAT guys, are going to handle these bigger losses in most cases, or a senior rep, a senior field rep, or a senior desk is going to get assigned. When you set a reserve correctly, it's not a $30,000 repair, it's a $2.5 million rebuild. There's a big difference of who gets sent out. It's not the pilot school guy that's coming out with the power of the pen of $25,000. It's the senior large loss that has the power of a pen for $2-3 million that can actually write that loss and approve it. So getting that proper scope is very key here.
So Brian, and Brian, I want to turn over to you in a second, but one thing I gotta ask you on this one, Jason, is, I think that in the world of what you're doing right there, I guess the first question anybody who's watching would be is, why you? I mean, there's 10 teachers out there who would tell me that their way is the best way to go about large loss, or that they understand arbitration, or they understand this stuff better than what you do, or they have the way figured out.
Right.
I guess my question for you, if somebody's watching, they're thinking, why should I trust you, man?
Right.
What is it about you that makes you any different than
Right.
somebody else, brother?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it's pretty simple. Experience, right? So my resume speaks for itself, right? I write for Lloyd's. I'm a building consultant for Lloyd's. I write for Sedgwick. I write for a lot of insurance companies. I was a preferred contractor for 25 years. So as a preferred contractor, I know how the inside works. I know who the delegated authorities are. I know who the senior reps are. I know who the game changers are that can manipulate and move claims, right? So besides that, obviously having the GC, the roofing, the mold remediation, the real estate, and the adjusting licenses, 5 licenses just in Florida. Kind of know what I'm talking about. After 40 years, it's my 40th year. I started framing in 84.
Yeah, you don't look it, man. I'll tell you what, you
Yeah.
look good. I'll tell you what. By the way, you got a great family, too.
Yes.
I met your wife on accident or whatever. I was out having a drink, and so wonderful people, I'll tell
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Very pleasant. It was really nice. Brian, big man on the roof. I've known you for a couple of years. I met you. You were working with a Nationwide, I believe, at the time.
Yeah, I was
Right.
Nationwide at the
You
time.
were working Nationwide at the time.
Mhm.
It was back when I had a radio show. You got to fill me in, though. People who don't know, first, your story personally has been amazing the last 2 years. From, if you don't mind me saying, from going from roofing to washing cars, I believe.
No, it was
Crystal,
no,
what was it?
it was I bought a tire shop.
Tire shop.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Guy goes and buys a
Now-
tire shop back
Wow.
home, and then you, in my opinion, you really swallow your pride, and you say, "I'm going to start this thing from ground zero." And you have done an incredible job in the last 6 months. It's been a pleasure to watch and see, man. But tell us, what is Big Man on the Roof? What is this brand? What's it all about, bro?
Well, first off, thank you for putting it in perspective like that, because when it's me by myself, it usually doesn't formulate that way. But so thanks for that. To basically kind of explain the past 2 years, I'm just thankful like everything has even gone this route to kind of be where I'm at, to where I want to have my own brand and kind of do the Big Man on the Roof. So like the biggest misconception is people think that Big Man on the Roof is its own roofing company. No, this is just kind of who I am as far as my brand, how to say that I'm out there. I've been through the experience where it's just I've gone to different contractors and I understand I don't have the typical roofing background. My dad wasn't swinging a hammer. I wasn't swinging a hammer myself. I mean, before this dude, I was playing indoor football. I was playing football. I had championship rings. Like I was doing a whole other life. So when that pretty much turned off and I moved down to Florida, the team that I was going to join, Orlando Predators at the time, had just closed up shop. So here I am, my first introduction on I-4, thinking that I'll just be kind of a local baller. Well, the league's defunct. So now I got friends, like, as soon as I move into Orlando, telling me that they're getting kicked out of their apartments. So I say all I had to say is, like, I didn't know I was going to be in roofing or think that this was going to be a career path for me, but I'm so glad it is, because it's the closest thing I have to being that ex-athlete, to seeing a project through, to having to focus on the details. Like just as simple as how early our days start. Like a build starts at 7 a.m. You got to get up at 5. You got to factor in the travel time. You got to figure out like getting in the mentality, because all the details are on you. So that's one why I got into the industry. And after building up so many different companies and having access, because I've had some good luck with football and
Yeah.
it's allowed some, I say, extra doors to open that's not available to the regular sales rep. So being able to leverage that, being able to even show contractors, hey, there's this type of client. I've been on the end where I've given too much and not received what my actual value was. So that's why Big Man on the Roof kind of exists now, because people love working with me. Like I've been in situations where I've sold a job to the T. I know how it's supposed to go, so on and so forth. But because the production value isn't there, or somebody need to save a couple of dollars, or whatever the case may be, that affected my reputation. So Big Man on the Roof is a way of basically me holding my reputation of, you understand, no matter where I go, there's a standard of excellence. And that comes from the athlete. Like, it's just something as simple as, like, my last couple bids that I've won was because the roofers didn't show up. So imagine you as a homeowner, here I am first, and I'm giving you my best stuff. I'm talking about, hey, letting you know the value, there's no question about it. And now I got to wait for 2 other roofers that can't even get out of bed in the morning. When my whole life was, if I didn't get out of bed at 4:30, make it to the gym, walk across campus, I was running after practice. Suicide, stairs. There was a discipline factor after it. So doing this is cake. And no one's making me run. Yeah. Not that I want to be late, but you know how justices are. Sometimes they get there early, just basically trying to beat it. But it's as simple as, like, okay, if I can just be on time, I'm beating almost 90% of the industry.
That's beautiful. And by the way, thank God they didn't work out with the Atlanta Predators, because we would not be in this office. This is where their sales center was.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
See?
Oh, wow.
So this was the Orlando Predators office we're sitting in right now.
Wow.
So if you actually
That's
go through,
crazy.
if you walk through the back door, you'll see the Orlando Predators signs are still on there.
Kidding.
So there's full circle.
Full circle. And then that's how it's been hitting me in the face. It's just everything's been happening how
I know, right?
they needed to, but just to be here, be able to push my brand, the opportunity to meet people like yourself, and
Wow.
feel like I'm not the smartest person in the room, it's been working out for me. So
Listen, I feel that way quite a bit today. No different. Tim, I got a question.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on something he said right there. He's talking about people, talking about brand, okay? I'm not going to say that you have flown under the radar, because you know a lot of people, okay? But there are other people out there who want to be in front. They're roofers who want to be gurus. They want to be on the message boards. They want to talk a big game,
Yeah.
okay? But as soon as those people come up, man, I don't hear from them again for 10 more years. It seems like, or 5 more years. They're gone.
Yeah.
And what has been the key to your longevity in this business?
You know, I think doing what say you're going to do. One of my clients had a big tornado hit his house. He was my very first client 22 years ago, 23 years ago. And, I look back at that, and I was his go-to guy. I mean, he'd call me for anything. Hey, Tim, do you have somebody? I would make sure my book of business, people don't realize networking is so big, because if you call me and say, hey, I need a water heater, no problem. Let's call Jose. I trust him. He's the man, right?
underrated.
So I would always tell my clients, like, hey, I'm your guy. You know what I mean? Like, call me for anything. I don't care if, you see a spider, call me. You know what I mean? Like, if you see this or that, call me. And it's really that customer service. Like, one of my, my core values of our company, one is like 5-star treatment. You know what I mean? I want to be the Ritz-Carlton, of restoration.
Right.
I want to be, my guys show up to a job, they're wearing booties. People don't realize is that, you got one chance, and somebody's going to refer you, and they, walk in, you guys are all wearing different pants and different shirts and different outfits, and your trucks are dirty. During COVID, maybe I really realized, like, the mask, being clean, that I was running my business before COVID like that. You know what I mean? I would walk into a house with a mask. Is it okay if I take this mask off? You know what I mean? So when COVID happened for us, it wasn't a big deal, because we already, hey, sanitizer. Because you don't realize, like, you walk into a house, this person has a baby, you're touching the doorknobs. You don't realize they're wiping the doorknobs and doing all these things. So it's little steps that we used to do, like wipes and, all these different steps to make sure that customer realized we left. You know what I mean? Like, it's huge. Like the 5-star treatment of, like, putting down a rug and to put your tools down. You know what I mean? It's, like, you don't realize that lady's just like, oh my God, I just, had that floor cleaned, or I had my granite polished. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think for me, that clientele that I'm in, I'm in the high-end market, high-end homes, celebrity homes. I mean, probably any celebrity in Orlando, I've probably been in their home or done work in their home, or, been a part of something in Orlando, because I got referred to it. When Johnny Magic from Orlando, we all know he had a big fire.
Mm-hmm.
he called Mark D. James at 5 a.m. He's like, hey, I had a fire. It's all over the news.
Yep.
Press is outside. Mark D. James was like, hold on a second. I got your guy, hung up, called me at 5 a.m, 5:30 in the morning. He's like, meet me at this house. You're the guy. So, but Mark D. James was my customer 21 years ago, so anytime anything happened, if it was carpet cleaning or pressure washing, or even if I didn't do it myself, I would find the guy to do it. So that's big. And a lot of people don't realize is the networking is huge, like SVG and all these, me and Jason, and, it's that connections you're making with the guys that are going to they're going to make you deliver. That's so big. Cause like Jason, his client calls him and say, hey Jay, you're my guy. I got a job in Arkansas. He's picking up the phone to call the right guy.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't have the connections to that guy to deliver, that's so important. I don't think a lot of people realize how big networking is, and these SVG events and Wind the Storm and RoofCon, and it's that I think is a difference for me and why I feel like I've been around for a while.
I actually had a conversation with my sister shortly before he came in here. She's just starting to be a realtor, and she said one thing that she's struggling with now, and maybe putting her business out there, but either way, it just hammers on the same topic. She's basically like, the main thing that I'm working on is now that like I'm in the sales side of thing is learning how to respond, like when somebody goes out of pocket. And how I explained it to her is like the reward in that is by you controlling the response determines what your next referral is going to say about you, how to do business.
100%.
So when you have control over that response, there's always a third person watching. So when that third person tells that report of like, no, so-and-so's changed, or, hey, they really handle themselves, there's a reason why that person will call you. Now it has nothing to do with the quality of materials, how long you've been here. They just understand that, oh, you carry yourself a certain way, and now I can introduce you to people that I know. So that networking piece that you're hitting on,
it's huge. It's huge. And then, the way you handle a job, I mean, we all mess up. Things happen, like it's putting the money out of your pocket. If you don't have the money, figure it out, like to fix stuff. A lot of guys, they get too big too quick. They don't realize how to scale. They sell, and then you don't deliver. And I think that's a big part of what I'm seeing out there, where guys come out here, all of a sudden they're selling $20, $30 million in roofs. It's great, but if you don't deliver,
that's the point.
That's another reason why to have relationships with the carrier side, because you have a much better chance. You have a much better chance of getting through the sales cycle in that 3 to 6 months versus the 2 to 3 years. Right, and you put emergency services and all sorts of situations in there. And if you're automatically filing a claim, file to sue the insurance company, you're going to eat all those costs and hold those costs. I have a contractor that was $9 million just in emergency services, right after the storm hit. That was in 6 months.
Gee.
$9 million carrying an AR, right? But he files suit on every claim. I said, I don't like that model, bud. I'm not having nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? At all. I'm on the other side. I'm fluffing the carrier's pillow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you that question then, Jason, because that begs, there are people out there who, they love the storm restoration model. I'm thinking about a residential roofer even who does door knocking, let me find the claim. That was a big industry, rewind 5 years ago throughout the country.
Right.
Can a contractor still make a living, in your opinion, on storm restoration only? I mean, or is it only because it's large loss, what you're dealing with, is that different?
Well, they can still make a living on it because there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of claims, a lot of storms. It doesn't mean you're going to farm in your backyard all the time, though. It means you may have to be mobile and you have to go knock doors in Denver, or go to the derecho storm in Iowa, or you may have to go to Dallas, or you may have to go to Atlanta, right? So sometimes you're going to have to be mobile to try to hit your numbers or to continue growing, especially if you're trying to attract private equity. You can't have an off year.
Yeah.
You can't hit the bell-shaped curve and then drop down and then expect to be and attracting an 8 or 9x multiple on your business. It's not going to happen, right? So for me, what I do is I infiltrate repairs, day-to-day maintenance services, right? Those get into long-term contracts. And I'll be honest with you, it took me 3 years. It took me 30 years to get $3 billion portfolios that I manage: asset protection, deferred maintenance, retail services, and storm restoration services for, right? Took me 30 years to get those. In 2021, I earned 5. 3 of them are here in Orlando. There's $3 billion corporations here in Orlando, and here's how I won them. 1 hour deployment. From the time you call me to the time I call Tim or the time I call him for a roof or the time I call for somebody for drywall or whatever they need, it's 1 hour. By the time my vendor of choice contacts them and is on their way to the site, 1 hour.
Boy.
No, I mean, if I'm pushing back on you there, I'm a rural guy in Alabama, and I say, Tim, you can't do that. You're in Orlando. You're in a metropolitan area. Of course, you can do that. You've got access to people like Tim and Brian. But is that possible to do for somebody who's trying to? I'm trying to think of that guy who says, you know what, I want to follow your model. I want to become somebody who can do this. Can you do this in other markets, or do you have to be in a metropolitan area to make it happen?
Yeah, you wouldn't have a 1 hour, but we do have a 1, 6, 12, and 24.
Okay.
So those different hours of response are available, and then there's a 72 hour for the guy that's just starting to learn. Listen, I got you on the radar. I want to have you as a client. I want to do your deferred maintenance. I want to handle your emergency services. Anything over 72, you're going to lose the client. If you can get it within 72 in your new business, you still have an opportunity to earn that business, because some of these guys might not have the relationship to Paul Davis, Tim Machuca, ServPro, whatever, for the mitigation guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up earning the Assembly of God business, is that they called ServPro and they called Service Master, and they couldn't get to one of my losses. Mm-hmm. And the director of construction calls me and says, when can you get there? And I said, well, hold my beer. I called Tim. Tim's like, I got a guy 45 minutes away. He was on site in Little Rock, Arkansas, 45 minutes. That's how I got that one. That was a $600,000 loss.
Yep.
Pipe burst, right?
That's great.
Now I have the national account.
I think with social media too, man, like people don't utilize that. I mean, now, you can put stuff on these different sites and, hey, I got a big loss here. Who's in this area? These guys have been working with you and talking with you over the years. You vet them, I think that's so big, especially with social media now, like to be able to deliver in 45 minutes. When the freeze happened in Dallas, we had buildings where 15 stories that pipes froze. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, you're sitting there signing a contract in Orlando and getting guys on site within an hour. It's like, it's really that networking that people don't realize is so important. And I think that's what's good about social media. You know what I mean? What you guys doing to connecting and,
And let me jump in on top of that is for the storm restoration guys, which is probably, a big book of your business, right? Your viewership. It's much easier to handle the exterior trades and do building stabilization just by tarping, shrink wrapping, or doing peel and stick on the roof systems than it is to have to go in there and start cutting water and flood cuts and things like that.
Yep.
So for the GC guys, that's why ServPro and these big ones, they have policy endorsements. Belfour is the biggest in the country, right?
Yeah.
They're written into the policy. So you have to be very careful when you get into these large loss that you're not walking into somebody else's book of business, because they will kick you right back out, because they're actually they have the book of business already. But the reality is the exterior guys, it's much easier to follow the program. Like my network is nationwide. I can plug in any trade in any zip code in 48 hours. I can give you a current condition report. I can give you a repair recommendation. And if it's claim related, I'll have the scope of loss already started, contracted, and get you a ROM, a ballpark figure of what that loss is going to be in 48 hours, anywhere in the country.
So you're teaching people how to do this?
Yes, my guys can come in. So once I train them on the initial A to Z steps on how to get into roof and get into building envelope space, right? If that's what their forte is, no problem. We'll train you on that. Then you can join the network. In the network, you can feed whatever you need in any part of the country.
Your network is feeding your network, in other words. You're just building onto it.
Correct.
Okay, so, take it, so I like that for our large loss guys. Brian, my question for you would be, like we talked about earlier, a lot of the viewership on here would be individuals that are 26 to 35. These could be guys that are hitting the pavement their first time in the industry, okay? You've had to go through a lot, all right? And me being successful in this industry, okay? You work for some good companies, and I know some poor ones right now, okay? That later on maybe that reputation came to fruition. You made the right move, okay? I'll just leave it at that. But I guess my thing about it is this. I'll give you an example. I watch these YouTube, these reels and shorts, and I see these guys who will knock on doors, and it'll say do not disturb, or don't solicit. And they have these signs and these guys, and they take it upon themselves, and they'll go and they say, I'm going to really show these guys, all right? I'm going to get this person to buy, and they knock on the door. And Tim, something you said earlier made me think of this question. I'll get to you in a second, Brian, but I want to be clear about what I think about that. You don't know what somebody on their side of the door is thinking or what they're going through.
Absolutely.
You don't know if the wife is going through cancer. You don't know if they have a nighttime job and it's the only time in 48 hours that they get to sleep, or maybe they just want some time with their kids. And it's not that they're trying to be mean. It's just that, man, you know what? I have something going on in my life that you don't know about. And if you asked me to do something, I'd respect you. This is my home. I think you should respect my home. I don't think it's a game to be played with people. And you mentioned that with the little things, right? You don't know what someone's going through in their house, in their home.
Yeah.
But I mention this because, Brian, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to teach the new rounds of sales reps. They're trying to teach other people, Jason, they're trying to teach people how to run their roofing company that aren't as experienced, or maybe they were a sales guy who did a couple million a year and now they feel like they're an expert.
Right.
What do you see out there? You're returning from FRSA right now. That's going on here in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in the industry at the ground level right now with people that are coming in new, the good, the bad, the ugly? What are you seeing at the ground level right now?
I think the biggest thing people need to accept is this isn't 2017 anymore. Everything has changed. The paperwork has changed. What you can say has changed. How you get business, how roofing is viewed. Like I was talking to one of my friends is a public adjuster. We were having a conversation. It's like it took 6 years for homeowners to now be like, wait, I'm going to get a PA on this first. So then I go back to when I first started in Irma, and I was just knocking on doors with people with tarps. They were like, well, if you think you can do better, then go ahead. Like that was a good majority of my business and they were having like what the denial letters were saying the deductible is more than the actual damage. So it's like, hey, you got it from there. Like we were having success as far as getting those claims flipped and just taking the threat process. Now when it's knock on the door is they have a little bit more information. They know it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe you don't need to be at my adjustment meeting because you really can't move the needle here.
Mm-hmm.
Before that was, hey, no problem. You were going to be the representative for my roof. Make sure that that person is doing what they need to do. Make sure that my voice is being heard on this claim.
Mm-hmm.
So now for the new guys coming in, I don't want to give too much game because I feel like I feel comfortable about where I'm going as far as how this industry with everything that I'm doing. But I will say this. You can't get away with the fact of just saying you have quality materials or just a company's reputation. If you're knocking doors or even if you're a sales rep, you can only get so far because the other guy's saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be unique? In that same example of what you were saying earlier, as far as you don't know what somebody else is going through. I know that if I'm having a bad day or if my son is basically throwing a temper tantrum after kindergarten and somebody's knocking on my door trying to cut my trees, I might not have the most patience for you at that time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because I understand the industry is like, okay, listen, I'm gonna at least try to give you a nugget on your pitch before you get up out of here. But like I have something going on. So I've matched that to now when I'm coming into the game is being aware of that somebody may be going through something by just basically trying to have more like a soft opening, see if I can get into a conversation than it being about, hey, I can possibly get your roof approved through the insurance process. You only have to do this one and so forth. It'll only take 15 to 20 minutes because that's on repeat. They know that's at the door.
Yeah.
So just as simple as like, hey, Mr. Carr, how are you doing today?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. How can I help you? Listen, I'm in the area. I'm doing some inspections, but you know what? I was helping so-and-so over here. And then you go into the pitch. Just like giving them a minute to breathe and let them even reset because you don't even know how stimulated they are.
Mm.
So it's about finding a way of being different, finding the way of making that person remember you. Because I have deals now, like my closing ratio has gone up because I'm following up more than it is about getting the contract right then and there. So I didn't get you on that day, but around week 2, I got to go ahead and take care of this. I really like that guy. Now I have a contract in my email.
Mm.
So that's where I've had my success. That's where I feel comfortable going is because everybody that I take on as clients is somebody that's like, you know what, I could see me being of service for you for 20 plus years. I can see being like making sure that everything you happen here. Oh, your daughter's going in the cheer? Well, hey, I got a connection here, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having those little tangible moments and it being about trying to write 20 to 30 million a block and being the biggest person out there, but production value sucks.
Right.
So, I mean, Tim, he mentioned right here talking about PAs and attorneys and stuff. I mean, which is great. They're necessary in this environment, in this network, all right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, the last 4 years, we've seen that, and at least in the state of Florida, the power that attorneys used to have in moving the needle with insurance claims has been dramatically reduced. Now, I'm sorry, but you're right. Flatline is dead. So, with your experience, though, you've had a different approach to how to work with the carriers, which I think is very unique. What has been your approach? And Jason, I'd like to if you can piggyback on how do you work with these carriers who have gotten, it seems like it's constantly back and forth.
Yeah.
Contractor, PA, carrier.
You know, it's very rare that we bring in PAs. You know what I mean? It's because for me, you know, like the way we built our market, the way we actually, you know, go after insurance companies, actually I'm on their side, right? Like I built my business where like I want that adjuster to know, hey man, call me up. If a PA writes a crazy scope, let me come in and look at it. They trust me. I mean, it got to a point where I was, you know, during COVID, I was going on, you know, FaceTime with adjusters because they trust me.
Yep.
And it's where these guys are coming in, and it's not about writing for what you're doing. It's about being just exaggerating, you know. And you know, the carriers bring us in to consult and look at scopes, and I'm like, hey, look, this is a reasonable scope,
Yep.
you know. And if it's way off, you know, I'll call the contractor and say, hey guys, like this is a little excessive, you know. So what I think a lot of guys that need to realize now that get into the restoration or in the restoration space is the right to repair is a real thing.
Yep.
You know, and you know, I had a job the other day where the homeowner was like, Tim, I can't use you. You got to be on security first. And I was like, I'm on security first. But if I wasn't on security first, I had a work authorization, met the adjuster, got the roof approved, got his windows approved from hail, got everything approved. And the adjuster's like, hey, listen, we already assigned to somebody. You have to use this person. And it's so important to start that road, that path of getting on the vendor list, because, you know, we're on 17 carriers. I would have lost that job, you know. And I did lose one job. You know, we had another flood. It was like a $20,000-$30,000 water job, and we weren't on that carrier. And the homeowner is like, listen, Tim, I got $3,000 to spend with you, or I can use a vendor and it's unlimited because I have a $3,000 water cap.
Yep.
As a business owner, I said, listen, it's better for you. You know, I work for you, and this is what's best for your family. And I think that's what you're saying about guys door knocking and being aggressive, is they don't realize, like, you got to be on that side. You got to know when to let it go. My sales technique of like going to a neighborhood is once I'll market that neighborhood heavy, and then once I land that job, you know, my technique is I'm not walking up to the homeowner saying, hey, do you need a roof? I'm walking in saying, hey, my guys are going to be here. This is, you know, be aware of this, be aware of that. If we park in your yard, I'm sorry. Call me up, you know, and I'll walk away.
Yeah.
And I won't even approach the sale. Once we build the roof, I'll walk over. Here's a gift. Sorry for the inconvenience. That's my technique.
Yeah.
And then I'll market, and I'll try to own that neighborhood. And I think a lot of guys don't realize how important it is to, and then a lot of guys don't realize once you sign a roof and you do that roof, that's my client for life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to come and inspect that roof every year. I want to come and clean this or clean your pressure wash this. And, you know, we do services where we're cleaning the carpets every 3 months or checking your filters. And, you know, a lot of guys that are in the roofing space is great, but you put a roof on, 6 years later, they call somebody else. You're like, hey, why did they call somebody? Right. The guy just knocked on the door and they forgot about you. Yeah. And keeping that client, even if you're just doing some sort of like maintenance or looking at it, and hey, it's $150 a year for us to come out and do an inspection or clean your gutters.
Yeah.
And I think people got away from that. And one of the things I learned from Jason, like today we went and looked at a apartment complex, 60 buildings, you know, and they signed a contract with us. You know, Jason kind of guided us like, hey, you know, if something happens, you're already under contract.
Master service agreement, by the way.
Yeah. So today they signed a contract with us not to exceed. If they have a flood in the building, if a storm hits, they have first right. They're the first call on the list. And building that program is so big because you have to have that locked in, you know, and building that in Orlando and then, you know, scaling out and growing out is where I think a lot of guys don't realize the longevity. That's why, you know, I've been in business a long time. That's why Jason's been in business a long time. It's that strategy.
I'll give some golden nuggets right now. As a matter of fact, for all those residential or retail roofers right now, you should be calling every mitigation guy in the phone book and every general contractor. If you're not buying them lunch, because they can go out, they already have the Rolodex. They have all 22 trades. If you're one of their vendors and they're getting the call, Tim could get a call for a fire and get a $500,000 roof.
Yep.
Why wouldn't I want that roof? That's why I'm networking with GCs. They're my biggest, as a matter of fact, for commercial, my biggest ones are HVAC guys. Because every time I got $1 million roof, it's $250,000 in condenser units on the roof, right? So I have a pay-to-play teaching that nobody teaches. I know exactly what the rate is to pay to get into these relationships for the HOA and the property managers and the lunches and the Orlando Magic tickets and whatever else you need to pay to play.
Yep.
Right? And then there's the working relationship, which is why Tim and I have been doing a lot of stuff together for a while, because he has what I teach, he has 17 relationships to the carriers. So if he says, oh, hey, by the way, Brian, you want some roofs? I can turn the roof box on. Right now I'm with the fire and water box. You want the roof box? I turn that on for Orange County, Seminole County, and Osceola. How many claims can you handle? I'm getting 50 a week right now. Oh, he's writing the loss, and they're sending him the check.
Yeah.
Why would you want to fight against that?
Yeah.
Now, for the residential guys, you could connect with those guys. You could be getting that mail. I call it the mailbox money program, because every time you get a relationship with a GC or a mitigation guy, what are you going to give them in return? Every time the roof leaks, there's going to be a water damage, a stain on the ceiling. You got to have it checked. You're going to run around. I call them the FLIR guys. They run around with FLIR guns all day, and they're looking for hot spots on the ceiling. Why? They want the mold claim. They want the drywall patch, and they want this paint. Give them all that.
He's so
You just want the roof. They got 21 other trades. It's the greatest pass-off business for a residential roofing contractor. And by the way, I'm not even going to charge you anything for that.
Well, I have a question. I want to follow up on that real quick.
Before we go into questions, I got to take this one.
Please.
Here. Which camera's on me? All right, so all my water mid companies, you heard right there from Jason Berg. There's no reason why you shouldn't be reaching out to me if that's the case. Find my information at props.me/bkeys. Go ahead.
We'll put it across.
Get me in the commercial.
Put it across the bottom. There we
Big
go.
man on the roof. And the GCs.
You know,
GCs.
Jason's so right. Like when the storm hit, I'm calling this roofer, that roofer. It shocks me that people don't come to me. Like, I'm just giving roofs away. I mean, we're doing roofs now, but when I wasn't doing roofs, I was mitigation. I'm surprised more roofers don't come bring me donuts, or I like caramels.
Gave $1.5 million in roofs away last year.
That's awesome. Wow.
Last year, 1 month, $600,000 roof, $500,000 roof. But these roofers are feeding me. But it just shocks me that Jason's so right. Like, you guys, a lot of guys go door knocking, but they'll realize, you hit one guy like me, that gets 300 calls in a storm. Like, you got to know where to network, where you're feeding the big pie. It's not, door knocking is great, but Jason's so right. It's me and GCs is huge, because we're just giving this stuff away.
You knock doors for a month. You spend 3 hours from 3 to 7, 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
3 to 7, the door knocking time.
Absolutely.
Pop, right?
Absolutely.
Saturday morning, okay? Let's say your close rate is 30%. That's awesome. Let's say you pick up 7 or 8 contracts that month. Awesome. Great job, okay? During that same amount of time, in those 20-some hours, I'm having $1 million in contracts with guys like this.
Yep.
And I'm taking them to lunch in air conditioning, and I don't get any no's. I get all yeses. Oh, yeah, of course, Bergie. Of course, I'll network with you. No problem. Because they're making money, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I just hired a new sales guy, started 3 months ago. Last month, he sold $1.1 million, right?
Wow.
But his technique is what Jason's teaching us, right? Like, this is how you do it. This is the account you're going after. I want a guy that's going to feed me 5,000 homes, than a guy that's going to, give me 1 or 2.
Yep.
Or big, it's just it's the technique. You're right about, you meet somebody, you see these gurus and how to do it. But I will tell you, I've worked with Jason. Jason mentors me, and it really seeing it. You know what I mean? Like, I've mentored guys and took guys to another level, and it's because, they listened, they believed, and Jason, I will say, is probably the best. I've worked with a lot of coaches. Every year we hire a coach, different coaches, and Jason's probably the best coach that I've ever worked with, because his techniques work. and you're getting the small jobs, but you're getting that big payday, and you're getting the right clientele. And I think that's where a lot of guys don't realize.
I'm still learning, by the way. Still learning. Still learning.
I want to know let me give you a hot take on this one, okay? Because I'd love to know what your opinion is, Jason. We just talked about having access through your network to being able to do those interior trades that a roofer might not do. When you're
Sell
quite okay.
Sell 'em.
But let's take that guy. Or in your opinion, let's say somebody comes to your course. All right, I'm a roofing contractor. That's what I do. Maybe I do some siding. All right.
Yep.
But I'm doing roofing, gutters, and siding.
Yep, perfect.
Are you doing a disservice, in your opinion, to homeowners by not being able to complete the interior? Because here's my thought about it. But thought is this, especially on a claim. A claim is not just going to be the exterior of the home. There's going to be interior damage that needs to be taken care of. I've seen a number of contractors that will say, hey, listen, you know what? Don't worry about that. We'll get the money. You take care of that yourself. I'm going to take care of what I need to do, and I'm out of here now. All right?
Yep.
And whatever you got left over, good for you.
Put it towards you.
Put it towards, whatever you want to. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
When you're out there and you're teaching these guys, I mean, in my opinion, that's doing a disservice to the homeowner. Now, it's quick money. It's easy money. Take it out of the tire claim. Okay. They think they've got $20,000 left, which is a lot of money. You know it's going to be a lot more than that, but you don't care because you want to run.
Right.
How are you teaching these guys? Is it really about having the network available in your area to be able to take care of that homeowner?
Yeah, because the reality is this: if you're out actually networking, so instead of I've never knocked a residential door in my life.
I'd love to see you do it.
I've been in this in 40 years. And I can do that all day long in commercial, right? Multifamily, industrial, no problem. But I never wasted my time. No, it's not a waste of time. I never put my time and effort into residential because back in the day, it was the Yellow Page phone book ads, radio advertisements, and that was it. The only door knockers were Jehovah's Witness and Kirby Vacuums.
Mm-hmm.
That was 40 years ago. That's all that existed, right?
Definitely
So it was a handshake business. We'd write contracts on the napkins down at the bar with the farmer boys up in the Midwest. You know what I mean? So just a different time, different era. And by the way, it was $75 a square for shingles back then, turnkey. So
is it about the network then?
So yeah. So what I would say is that rather than sometimes it's good to leave that client the money, the collateral damage money towards the deductible. If they don't have the cash, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
If they need to have some repairs, listen, I specialize in roof and siding, but I do have other guys that I'm connected to in my network that could probably come in and help you out. What if I just gave you a referral to them? I trust them. They do good business. Matter of fact, they give me all their roofs and all their siding. In exchange, I give them all this other work. So it's a good fit, right? So why would I do that? Because they'll pay a commission for that. It's mailbox money.
Yeah.
So now listen, if the client doesn't have any money, and I know that if they're going to pay me a commission on it and it's not going to help them cover it up, I say, hey, just take this one. Just take it, run with it, go get it, make some money, right? And let the extra money go in to help cover it up. Well, no problem. But in a lot of cases, you start getting in these bigger homes.
Yeah.
You know, Tim does all them high-end homes. The number of are $250,000 in Heathrow and Windermere and Lake Nona and right. So you got collateral damage on that. You're probably talking $30,000-$40,000. That's a lot of money, right?
You know, a lot of guys don't realize, I don't know why more roofers don't work with GCs more. Because, like, not only, you know, I did a roof, it was $200,000 and it was $1 million inside. You know, and if they would have brought GC in, you know, not only do they make more money, but at the end of the day, you guys remember, it goes back to that client. Like, when you walk away from that client, do the roof, and then a guy like me comes in, who do you think they're going to call?
Yeah.
They remember me last.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? They remember me last, and instead of, you know, that roofer that comes in with a guy like me or a GC, not only is that GC feeding you, you're feeding him. It's a win-win. But at the end, when that job's done, and you guys are bringing the champagne and the roses, and you know, and all, like, here's your nice kitchen. The homeowners will remember what the roof looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of guys don't realize. One thing I will say is, working with GCs, networking with mold remediation companies, fire restoration companies, guys aren't doing it.
I can actually.
And here's another golden nugget on top of that. By the way, I'm not charging for anything for this.
I'm sure I'll get the invoice.
The GCs are definitely, and the mitigation guys are definitely the collaboration for any roofing contractor, whether residential or commercial. If you're in commercial, be definitely calling every HVAC company too, because they're on the roofs every day fixing those condenser units, dropping their hammer, poking holes in the roof, right? Okay. But here's the other thing: for the rep, I teach the rep. If you're a residential roofer or a commercial roof sales guy, switch your model to build an envelope specialist. You don't have to be a building envelope expert. I can say I'm a building envelope expert because I write for the carriers and I write for the policyholders and I write for the attorneys. But if you shift from roofing salesman to building envelope, well, why is that? Because you're already looking at it. Every roof contractor that's selling residential is still looking at the siding. You're looking at the stucco. You're looking at the EIFS. You're looking at the gutters, the fascia, the condenser units on the ground, right? You're looking at 7 trades, even though you're a roofing contractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you be a building envelope guy? If I'm going to hire somebody and the guy comes and says, I'm a roof salesman or I'm a building envelope consultant, I'm going to hire the building envelope consultant. It's a shift of the mindset, and I'm going to tell you why.
That's good.
The building envelope consultant doesn't need any licensing. He doesn't need any permitting. He doesn't need any schooling, but he sounds way more professional,
Yeah.
right? Way more professional. I'm a building envelope consultant. By the way, I specialize in roofing and siding, but I can handle everything you got because I've got such a great network of people in my portfolio. So I'm going to do your roofing and siding, but I'm going to have all your other stuff taken care of. Then they're never going to call anybody else. Tim is right. If you're the GC and you control the relationship, you will always get their book of business. Now, just think, when her friend at the gymnastics place has a loss, or her friend that down at the car wash gets hit, or whatever the case is, anybody they have a relationship with, by the way, I can teach you 60 different relationships just in the commercial and multifamily space that you and your family drive past every week and don't even think about, right? Inside these relationships, there's more business for you to be had. If you're just a roofing guy, you're one and done, you're in and out.
Yep.
If you're the GC, you are the man, the myth, the legend, and their personal hero all at the same time.
And I want to expand.
You are the building envelope consultant.
I want to expand on that from even from a sales perspective. So like I've kind of recently had this shift going from working with somebody that just all they had was the roofing license, and like how I'm in this room right now, like we've become friends. I'm sure we'll be friends. Your dad has on great shoes, by the way, so good job taking care of him in that aspect. But I say all that to say is like working with the GC from a sales perspective, there was business I had to turn down because all I could do was roofing. So somebody really wanted to give me more business, like, oh, do you know somebody, can you do the interior? But it was just like, well, hey, all I can do was a roof. And sometimes I bring back jobs to the office and be like, hey, there's some good profit in there. Do you think we know somebody, so on and so forth? But because they don't want the liability or even wanted to venture in that, it's like, I have to let this go. So now I'm watching somebody else get the business where I could have been like 2 times the value of that client. And people just have to, they have to think of this from like a time perspective. Like a lot of sales reps get in the business and they have that one and done mentality. There's people that we serve that eventually end up running for local office and what that could be for you just in your backyard of where you live.
Right.
And you have to take care of those people. You should want to show back up. It should be something as simple as, all right, how you were saying as far as like just you want to be that person's roof for life. Why isn't it more that, why is it we're so driven to get more business when you can go to the old business and say, how's everything going?
Absolutely.
Right.
I've had more people introduce me into HOA boards because I went back and they remembered me from when the storm first hit. Then it's about, okay, well, let me get the next door. Well, if I get this entire block here, maybe then they'll pick me to be on the HOA board.
Yeah.
Versus where it's Miss Tanya, who's sweet as all pie, bakes you a cake. She took care of you. You pop in, hey, did you ever get that tree planted? No, I never got that taken care of. But thanks for remembering for it. The next thing you know, when I'm leaving to pull off a lot, hey, my HOA board meeting just had my HOA just had a board meeting and they're thinking about getting the roof replaced, and it's a whole tile complex.
It's awesome.
It's huge.
And that's driving somewhere that I've already been.
Yeah. I don't know why more sales guys do not work for guys that are general contractors. It just blows my mind that
It's education. It's
yeah,
man. There's nobody. Sorry to cut you off, but it's just like because it's kind of a sensitive point, and like kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing is because when you get in this game, like I said, it's not 2017. The biggest draw was you could get in this if you door knocked enough, you can make 6 figures, and you know what? At a certain point, that's all you needed to hear. Go on and go forth.
Yeah.
It's not until you get larger in the game, you start moving with players such as yourself, and you start kind of peeking back behind the curtain of like how this game really operates to where it's just like, oh, we actually don't have the arms to be able to take this on.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we could only stay at this level. So like I said, working from a GC, somebody that built that credibility over time, has that good relationship, it's easy to just basically walk in and then look like a star.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, I know them from so-and-so.
Yep.
And that's been my experience working with Skylight Roofing.
That's perfect. And let me give you a just perfect example of that. Hurricane Ian comes through. Punta Gorda Fort Myers gets smoked. Punta Gorda's on the edge. Get called into a loss down there to be mitigation for the roofs that came off a little bit, right? And the mitigation that was inside. So the mitigation on it's $31 million. The roof's only $3.5 million. It's a $71 million loss. The roofing contractor is going to do just the flat roofs for $3.5 million. The steep slopes are going to be another $2.5 million. So it's $6 million of roofs. Nice package.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you want to have the whole thing?
Yeah.
Just the window package is $17 million. The commission is $1.7 million just on the window package.
Yeah.
Like, why would you give that up? Like, if you're already getting called into that and you're the building envelope guy, you're already looking at the roof anyway. So I got called in, and that was one that I was going on with Sedgwick, right? So brought in all the different pieces, bring in the shrink wrap. Larry Bond came in, shrink wrap that. Bring in the roof contractor for steep slope. Bring in the SPF foam guys on the flat roof. Bring in the waterproofing guys for the exterior to get it all tied in. So that's a nice claim. It's going to sit for a couple of years. What do I care? It's in the pipeline.
To answer your question, Brian, about why people don't go back, I think it's because they know that their company sucks. And I believe that in my heart. I think, like you said, eventually you peel back the curtain a little bit when you've been doing it a while, and you realize that while I'm getting a $1,500 commission check, I know we're probably not going to deliver exactly what I said and promised at the dining room table as a residential or even a commercial guy. Like, I know it's probably not going to be quite what I said, but we're going to get by, and it's going to be enough. And I think that a lot of these guys, they don't want to go back, and they don't want to foster old business or new business from the old, because I don't want to deal with probably what I'm going to have to face, which is the promises that were left unkept. And I'm probably going to have to go back and listen to the fact that, you know what, you never did fix that window like you said you were going to. And that leak it never actually did. No one ever came back and fixed that. And I think that a lot of contractors, they know they haven't done what they said they were going to do.
Right.
I'd rather avoid the problem, move on to the next person than have to go back and do that small thing that I promised I would do as I was leaving her home, or that we were doing as we were cleaning up in the very end. And I think that holds back a lot of people from succeeding right there.
Absolutely.
And even the process of production. Like, it is a crappy situation to be in as a sales rep when it's something that production should just take care of. And I mean that in the aspect of just painting that last wood spot, getting that just going up and above and beyond.
Yep.
And just making them feel like, okay, they did put my home complete.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being like how you say those unkept promises where it's like, well, that rep doesn't want to go back because we're supposed to take care of the fascia, but I had to now explain to her why we're going to do it because we've already paid bottom dollar to this crew, and now they don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, hell, it's hard to even get the plywood back for that case. So it's
Right.
I think quality control, like, my sales guys, when I'm training my sales guys, is when they hand that card off, they tell the customer, listen, through the whole process, I'm going to be here, right? And I'm going to be here at the very end to do quality control. We're going to walk the job, walk the scope. And you're right, because, like, at the end of the day, we don't know. We're building, we're doing stuff, but, like, you have to have that quality control guy that comes in. And what is it? The best guy to do it is that sales guy, because at the end of the day, my sales guys are like, hey, thank you for everything. Here's a gift. We put a little sign in the yard, welcome home. And hey, do you mind giving me 5 names that you would recommend? You know what I mean? Because, like, you're right. You're right there. You just did a great job. Customer loves you, and it's just that whole process. And I think that sales guys forget that. They sign a job, hand it off, see you later, go to the next one. And, I have, there's 4 points for sales. It's selling, it's closing it, getting it approved, collections, and finishing. Do you want to do all 4? If you don't want to do all 4, then, what you got to do these 2. If you don't want to be part of meeting the adjuster, building that relationship with the adjuster, that's fine. This is a big key of sales. Is that adjuster, when you go to a claim, he's referring me 5 or 6 different claims, right?
Right.
That homeowner at the end, that's all sales. And a lot of people forget the core of sales, and when that window doesn't get done, doesn't get finished, it's the sales guy's fault because it's quality control. Like you promise that, you got to deliver it. And if you got to take a paintbrush to touch up something or, mop the floor on the way out and, hey, Mrs. Smith, here you go. I think a lot of guys in business forget that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? A lot of sales guys forget that. And then, Mrs. Smith, she's calling you. Hey, Tim, I see this little mark in my ceiling. What's going on here? Whatever it is. And I think a lot of guys forget that in business.
Yeah. One of the words that I've heard thrown around a lot, and if I hear it one more time, I feel like I'm just going to want to shoot myself, is EBITDA. All right. If I have to hear the word one more freaking time, okay, Jason, if I have to hear EBITDA, you're going to buy, how much EBITDA are you going to get, or upfront money, or 5x your EBITDA, or whatever the thing it is. Man, you're out there. These guys are building companies to sell, I think, eventually. I mean, I'm not sure about your company, Tim, but Jason, I mean, people come to your class. You work with a lot of these guys now with your brand. Everyone at EBITDA, you want to sell something, want to sell their business to, whether it be people like All-Star or Vertex or these ones that are out there.
Yep.
I mean, is it still the thing? Is EBITDA still the thing, or is there a new thing now, Jason? I don't even know. Is it like
net?
Okay, net now. There's always some new thing you have to get to sell. Okay, turn down. What is it out there, man? What are these guys? Because I got to think that there's somebody out there who's been in business for a couple of years. They're doing 5 to 10 million. Good, they're running a good business. All right. They want to take it to another level. They've thought about what it'd be like to sell. Lord knows they probably get a few calls. All right. Think people that might want to, offer something.
Yep.
What are you seeing in the industry now for the companies that are attending your training? What's happening right now in this space? Is it still the Wild West out there, or is it starting to shore itself up? It's starting to solidify, not as... What do you think?
It's hot right now. The 5 to 10 is just the attraction mode. So 5 to 10 in sales is usually $1.5 million, $2 million to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit too small for a big private equity group to come in and get excited about it. Usually want to see about a $5 million EBITDA, net, in your case, right? So in that situation, some of these guys are ready, though, to grow quicker. And so they'll say, hey, what if we just merge and we did a bolt-on with our smaller company with a bigger company that's got a great reputation? And Tim and I are working on a package right now. Tim and I just proved out.
Yeah.
There's his company, HVAC, a roof company, and a Steckel guy.
Yeah.
These 4 companies separate today are valued at $19.5 million. Together, if they merged, they'd be $26 million immediately.
That's beautiful.
Right? So
Makes
26
so much
million,
sense.
right? Well, so listen, Tim, you gave away $1.5 million in roofs last year, and you gave out $700,000 in HVAC. What if you put that inside your own company? You had your partners doing that under your flag.
Yep.
So that's another $400,000 to the bottom line. That means you're doing $7 million EBITDA, right? One's doing 3, $1.5 million, $1.5 million, and $500,000. You put them together. You keep the HVAC and the roofing in your bucket, right? And now you got all the relationships with the carriers. You'll hit $10 million EBITDA next year combined. You got a $60 million company. Right now you're 19.5 separate. At the end of next year, you can be $60 million. You want to play with Daddy's program?
Yeah.
Come over here, Timmy.
Yeah. Come play with that.
And we're actually doing that. Like that's actually how
It works right now.
it's in the works. You know what I mean? So, and like Jason's right. Like giving away all these roofs and giving away the HVAC. I mean, we do fire, so we're doing $75,000 HVAC packages. You know what I mean? New air ducts, new insulation, new this, new that, new roof. I'm just giving it away. I'm like, you know what? Merging companies, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Bringing them and it's just giving the client a better package. Are we gonna sell? A year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? It's that package you're gonna sell to your clients, and I think that's what a lot of guys. My advice to guys out there would be like, really look for a GC that like, and a mold company to work with. I think that's the missing key of.
Right now, roofing is hot, HVAC is hot, landscaping is hot, which is kind of outside of our bubble. But for inside of our bubble, it would be roofing, mitigation, home services. Those are the 3.
Yep.
So in the mitigation and the home services, you can pull on all 22 trades. They're going to get a strong multiple because roofing is just roofing. But ultimately, they're paying the big multiples on the guys that are doing residential B2C retail. Those are getting the big multiples. The
Service.
the double figures, right? the service and the residential. They don't like big chunky commercial. But if you put that inside of a mitigation or a home service guy, it's very attractive. Now for the smaller companies that are doing the 5 to 10, they're like, hey, I want to see what this looks like. They can be a great resource where they're at with their little book of business, farm in their own backyard, and they can be a bolt-on with a bigger company that already has a stronger multiple, right? They're like, kind, and so it's just a matter of the integration, as far as back office. Are you using Job Nimbus? Are you using AccuLinks? And, who's going to handle the financing? After 10 years of doing this, I've got a little bit of experience, still learning every day. Hello.
Yeah.
But, I've got enough information to make some people very successful and very happy. Like Timmy, Timmy's about 3 days away from an LOI on a $9 million company that's fire selling for $3 million.
Congratulations.
Right?
Good, man. I want work. Okay, so give me some hope, though, or if there is hope. I mean this. Talk about a guy in Tennessee. This guy's been running a couple crews. It's just him. Maybe he enjoys just being a roofer, man. Maybe he enjoys just doing siding or gutters. He just enjoys his trade. I think a lot of guys, let's say over the age of, let's say 40, maybe they just enjoy their trade. They didn't get into it because they wanted to make 6 figures. That wasn't the deal at that time 20 years ago. No one told them that.
Right.
But I guess for all three of you, is there still a place in this industry for a guy and a couple crews who maybe they just enjoy in some way just doing the work, doing the day's labor, and doing the work for people?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Because I talked about this with somebody earlier. In some ways, we get so caught up in scaling, EBITDA, net, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
There we go. And we get so caught up in it. And even when I started this company, people will ask me, how are you going to scale it? With manpower. Like, isn't there something still for the guy who just says, hey, man, maybe I'm not going to make I'm not going to sell for 10 million, but damn, I'm just going to do a good job every day. I guess I'm asking all three of you, is that gone now in this trade? Is that guy a dinosaur who's dead already, or is there still a place in this industry for that person?
I think there is. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah, you guys jump in first.
please.
I got a different answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say from fact, like, yeah, there is a space for that. But if you just watch anything natural in business, it's like once those big players come in and they start buying up those smaller ones, that smaller guy basically kind of gets bring to the top of like, oh, this is my competition going around. So the small guy can be there, he can occupy, he can fly underneath the radar. But if roofing does what I think it's going to do, and somebody large comes in and starts buying up these companies, kind of like what they're doing right now, we might actually see like a national roofing brand where it's just like that is the Walmart, that is the Apple, that is the McDonald's of roofing, because people are getting into it now. So, I mean, from my perspective, like being a part of a company and kind of seeing one grow too fast and trying to have the EBITDA, trying to be net, trying to get to a point of private equity, like the way that I experienced it, you damn near had to kill yourself. And like right now where I'm at in my life is, hey, I'll do some sales, I'll work with a few clients, I'll provide for my family, and I obviously always want to get better. I always want to go on to the next level, but it's very hard for me to see me put 70-hour weeks into this, not see my kid and know that at the end, like I made a bunch of money, but my kid doesn't know my name. My kid does. I wasn't there for bedtime, and I'm not saying that is either or. The choice of it is just like based on my experience is like, the way that I would end up in private equity or end up in an opportunity like that, it has to be because I'm just enjoying and I'm just dominating that. I don't even look up and realize like, oh, I qualify for that. So if it starts to ask too much of me and take away from my family, then yeah, I'll be that guy in Tennessee that just basically does jobs, does it well, and it's just local in his community. Because when you start stepping in that realm, there's a different price to pay. And I commend y'all for that.
So
my opinion.
So there is a place.
There is a place for the guy. It's just how long.
How long do you think?
That's what I'm saying. Is like if private equity happens how it's moving right now, and we start seeing like a roofing company, like a national brand, it becomes Walmart, like the Apple of roofing, whoever that brand is going to be, and that ends up in his backyard, he has some days ahead of him. He probably has a number because, I mean, we've seen enough. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are in it, but like at least from outside looking in, is big company will come in and basically offer him a number and say, hey, we like what you have going on here. Here's what we're going to do. He's like, no, I'm just going to keep doing my thing, so on and so forth. It's like, okay. Then they start buying up. Then his clients are like, well, yeah, I wanted to go with you, but, you know, they just kind of got bigger name. Now his business starts drying up. Now it was, all right, did you miss the wave to be able to sell? So even with those conversations, like, yeah, there's a place for that guy, but one way or another, he's going to have to make a decision and be okay with whatever that decision is.
How long do you think he's forced to make that decision?
They would have more of an insight on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I have like 30 or 40 of those guys that are $2 to $3 million players, small players that are just roofing, mostly in the Midwest, because they roof from April to November. That's it. They shut down. They go snowmobiling in the wintertime. They play hockey, right? They enjoy life. So they don't care about the money. Yeah. They don't care about the money. That's fine. That's great. No problem. But what they do understand is that in their little markets, they are the name in their little market.
Yep.
Like I got a couple clients in the suburbs of Minneapolis, and they control all that little business there in their own backyard, which is fine. They can probably do 70 to 150 roofs a year. And when the storms hit, they do 250. They scale up and do 250. So maybe they're doing $5 million on a spike. They're doing $3 million normally, right? They're fine. They got a $1 million house. They got 5 acres. They got horses and snowmobiles, and they're happy. What they do understand, though, now is that eventually what's going to happen in the next 60 months, which is 5 years, a majority of the relationships in the roofing space are going to be a conglomerate of some sort on about 10 different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The buying power that these guys have is going to be crazy buying power. Okay? Let's just look at SRS, Home Depot. Let's look at the All-Star Construction Boys, right? They bought 12 acquisitions in 10 months. I happen to be right in front and center of the gatekeeper of that one. So I know exactly what's going on in the big play. I know what our buying power is. Nobody has the buying power that they have. We haven't even got to the big step yet. So the reality is eventually these big boys, these 10 platforms, are going to ultimately be competing on the buying power, which is going to drive a little bit of business away from the smaller guy. But if they're just farming their own backyard, again, they're happy. They're spending time with the kids. I'm just thinking one gentleman in person, I offered to bring him in as a bolt-on to one of my companies. And he's like, yeah, pretty good. He's got a 5,500 square foot house. I got a 5,000 square foot office. I got a cabin up north. It's only 2 hours from the house. I got a bunch of snowmobiles, ATV. I built a dirt track in the backyard. Got 4 kids. They're all playing hockey. Like, we're shooting pool at night on the weekends. Like, we're, having beers down at the C&J's Bar and Grill. Riding motorcycle. Like, life's good. He don't care. I mean, so those guys, no problem. No problem. He doesn't care.
Is that a Minnesota bar?
Yeah. Sure is. Sure
It
is.
sounds like one.
Yeah.
So there's a place for this, guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Some guys can stay small and be happy.
I like that. I guess for me, I just look at it that, man, I want you to answer this question, but there's a part of me that thinks, that it goes in ebbs and flows, like you said, that eventually, let's just take an all-star packages of theirs, and they sell to a BlackRock. And it's all about moving up from wherever you're at. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I didn't wonder what happens when it gets to that level. Is it then broken back down over the next 10 years? Okay.
IPO.
And so then I think about what's the long-term play. And I get it. I mean, and I don't know the answer to these questions. I'm not smart enough to understand this stuff. But I hope that 5 years, 10 years from now, there's still a place for the guy who just wants to be on a roof, and that he wants a trade that he can feel proud of. And that, because as these companies buy someone up, I've seen this with some local people, they're laying off other people, because there's more automation. They want to cut cost. And every time I see that, I think, come on, I understand the bottom line, but then that person's got to go find another job. There doesn't have to be, let me repeat, there doesn't have to be people aspect. I just hope there still is 5 years from now, because that's going to, I don't know, I think the world might be just a better place. Call me crazy that if people actually gave a crap that I'm laying off a guy who's been with me for 5 years because we did an acquisition. I made $6.5 million as an owner, and now I'm here as a consultant for 5 years making $250 a year while they make the decisions in my business. I hope that a business owner thinks about it as more than just, I'm going to make $6.5 million to ride off into the sunset. Who are those people that have been with you when you were going from 1.5 and traveling with you, going to Louisiana, these things? I just hope that that's still there in 5 years.
Well,
I don't know if it is, but gosh, I hope.
Well, I think the play is just like Del Air. You know what I mean? He sold to the employees. You know what I mean? Like you know, yeah. I mean, there's a couple local plumbers here in town that I know that they just did that. And the employees are we're out networking event, and he's like, yeah, we now have ownership. We have stocks, retirement. You know what I mean? And the owners, the company was around since 1976. There's guys that are still working there since day one.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he's like, hey, they sold the company to employees. I think that's going to be a big thing too, because you're right. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not about the money. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to get taxed a lot. This guy was with you, knocking doors or cleaning gutters or, tornado hit your 5-hour drive to go do something. It's like, it's your legacy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, what will somebody say about Time Machine 30 years from now? And I think that's where, like what Jason and I are doing and getting teams together and merging companies is to be able to deliver a package that you're going to be able to deliver what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we buy a company that's doing 20 million, 30 million, and we buy a company or merge, I'm not looking to buy, not necessarily just buy everything, is merge and bring the right guys with you.
Asset purchase.
Yeah.
No, there's no cash now.
Yeah.
Everybody puts their companies together, and the evaluation of your company is what you get for shares.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sell in 24 months, and then you go for the next turn, and the next turn takes care of the second, third generation, and then you turn again, and then you turn again, right? So it's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
Pop it up.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, private equity is where it's going, and there's different models,
Yeah, there
and
are.
it's just different ways to do it. And I think that, when it comes back to what we're saying about, building a solid team, I think guys forget that. It's like, who right now, if you had to think about who do you call for pest control? Do you have a pest control guy?
Yeah.
Most people don't. Make a list of those things that you need in a home and build 3 guys who do pest control. Build this, build that. Who does your janitorial? I have a janitorial company that gives me so many jobs. It's those little things that people don't realize, like, man, this lady has 200 employees. When that building floods at 4 a.m, we did the sanctuary. The lady cleaning the building is like, hey, Tim, there's like 4 feet, a 4-foot puddle of water in one room. And I just went downstairs and it's raining on the 8th floor, whatever floor it was. But that lady that I've taken out for dinners and, it's like, she's in all these buildings. I think people don't realize it's like, build that list of every trade.
Yeah.
3 people.
Another good one for the residential retail roofing guys, home inspectors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I actually
Home inspectors.
I recently
Right.
realized that one.
Yeah.
They don't want anything. They just want, all they want to know is that their checklist is going to be handled quickly so it doesn't hold up the closing, so that they can get more business from the realtors
Absolutely.
that are trying to get the closing. So they just want that project checklist, punch list done. So they don't need anything. They don't, you take them for lunch, or I've sent a couple guys to a basketball game. Like, wow, I don't need that. Cool. I got to sit on the floor. Wow, boom. They gave me so much business. I had to shut the phone off. I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have the manpower to do it. So,
That's big.
but here's another thing. Here's why the roofing space will still be around even after all this roll-up's done, because it's already been proven out in his line mitigation. Look at how long Belfour's been around. As soon as they started getting written into the policy and got policy endorsements, they became a billion-dollar company, right? Servpro, Belfour, Service Master, Paul Davis. There's so many big boy players out there, and there's tons of small business guys between 0 and 30 million a year. Tim's bucket, right? So that bucket right there is always going to exist, and it's going to be the same for the roofers that want to do 2-3 million and have a good lifestyle and go home at 6 o'clock, rip 35 square off, put it back on, right? Go home. They made $2,500 that day. They do 5 of those a week, right? It's 12.5. They're netting $8,000, and they're watching the kids play gymnastics and basketball at night.
Yep.
There's going to be plenty of that, no problem.
I have one final question for all of you, but I want to piggyback on that first, because I think that this is something that's overlooked. When we go out and we work with these roofing contractors and they're thinking about selling, one of the questions I've talked to these guys about after a few whiskeys is, man, what's he going to do with that money? Because eventually it's going to hit your account and you're going to see those zeros. And what's your day going to look like? You're going to drive past that office and you're going to want to go back and just talk to the old people and just spend your time there. It's not yours anymore. Or maybe they'll keep you on for a short amount of time. If you enjoy what you're doing right now, what is it going to look like for you? What does your ideal life look like? And if you think the $6.5 million is going to last you for 20 years, you're out of your mind.
Right.
And I think that there are people like that. But I'd really ask these guys, man, if you got something good where you're at and it gives you some purpose with your day and you feel good about life and stuff, then I know that the common thought is sell, roll up, do these things. But I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit old-fashioned, a little bit simple in this way, that I still think there might be something even romantic about the fact of a guy just saying, hey, man, I'm just sticking in here and I'm just working my ass off and I'm doing it and there's sweat on my brow and I'm doing something every day.
Yeah.
Because I don't know I think that some people, they sell and then they go, what am I going to do? Like there's only so many, get a couple weeks of the Ritz-Carlton, you go down to the islands a little bit, you drink a few Mai Tais and some Miami Vices, and you're like, okay, it's been a month. I'm ready to do something now.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope that people think about that before they make a move.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
not all platforms are the same, so that's a great question for you to have. So, for instance, if you're just to sale and walk away, you're right. Then that money's going to sit stagnant unless you put it to work. The real platforms are going to be reinvest. So, in other words, that you pull chips off the table. You're vested as a partner, not as in we're buying you out. You're partners with us now, right? So we want to go from 1,100 to 3,300 guys, and we want every $1 million you reinvest, we want you to get another 10 or 11 times on that in the next 36 to 48 months when we sell again. And then you're going to take more chips off the table for the second, third generation and re-roll some of that cash flow again. So the same work you're doing today for the next 60 months, not only are you going to get paid that $12,500 a week, you're going to be getting $125,000 a month on your reinvestment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to be able to take chips off, do it again, and do it again, and do it again. So it's the reinvestment part, and it's becoming partners with other like-minded contractors. We're not interested in guys that have boats and yachts and airplanes and things like that. Just level-headed guys that just want to go to work hard, go home, spend time with the fast quality of life.
Yeah.
Quality of life is most important. Those are the guys we're looking for. We found those partners, which is great.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to have a chance to re-roll and reinvest. And so everything that they're doing now, they're going to get paid 10, 12, 15 times over what they're doing the same work for today. That's the value for for the good platforms.
Got it. Final question for all of you. I was going to make it the same, but I'm actually going to switch it up. So final question for you, Tim. I'll start with you if it's okay. Somebody who's just starting in this industry, okay? Maybe they're 3 to 5 years in. You've been at it a little bit longer than that, all right?
Yeah.
And you've seen some changes in it. I think there's a general thought that what they can feel like is this industry is just constantly changing. But at some point, I think you almost expect the change. It's just kind of like, it's like, oh, it's another change we just got to deal with. What in your opinion is the advice you would give to somebody out there who is new? Maybe they feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
They're new to the industry. They're new to a certain sector. Like Jason, you mentored and stuff, and so you introduced this sector and stuff. All of this stuff, when it's new, can seem overwhelming, I think. So what advice do you have for this guy as he branches off into something newer as business continues?
I think the big thing is obviously learning what's going on with the market. I think coaching is so big. I mean, I can't just say that enough. Is because guys like me, there's obviously guys that know more than me, and every year I hire one coach. That's a big thing. Or get them, YouTube is great because you can follow guys and you can see what they're doing and a lot of that stuff. And I think a lot of guys don't realize how important that is. I hired one coach to help me get on TPA work, preferred vendor work. 1 year, I focused with that person, did that, and I got on that road, right? Then I hired a sales coach. 1 year, every week, I met with that woman, and it's so big because a lot of guys merging and growing and life, you got to, kind of develop yourself, right? And I would say I mentor guys and I've coached guys and I'm getting into helping train veterans, and we got a flood house, we flood with water, and trying to teach guys a trade and learning your trade is one thing I'll say is learn it well. You know what I mean? Is if you want to do water mitt and you want to be the water mitt guy, learn it well. Get all the certifications, get all your IICRC or whatever certifications you want to get, but be that guy. If you want to be a roof guy, sales, you know, go get certified. Go get, you know, the special things you need to be that best guy in that space, you know. And then, you know, when somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I need an expert," they're calling me because they're like, "Hey, Tim's the expert in fire, water, mold." You know what I mean? Like, that's his space. You know, my expertise isn't roofs. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I give them away. You know, do we do roofs? Yes, but I bring in the best of the best companies to work with us to make sure we you know, we get it done right. So that's one thing I'll say, guys that are learning, developing. If you want to get in water restoration, find a good coach, find a good school, get hands-on training. Because like the flood house we have in Orlando, you know, we're flooding the building. There's nothing better than that. I mean, hands-on, you know what I mean? And like working with guys. So like, that's some of the things, like for me, like, you know, training guys and developing guys and making sure they're doing it the right way is what I would say. But my advice to guys is like, learn the trade, love what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, I still love what I'm doing. I get in there sometimes. The guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You should be in here." I'm like, "I don't know. It's something about hitting the wall, you know."
Hey,
You know, it's just like, you know, I refinish wood floors and I just love it. I love the smell of it, you know, like. And the guys are like, "Tim, what are you doing?" I'm just like, "I don't know, man." It's like, when this is done, it's like building a car, right? It's like, you love that trade. And so,
Finish.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just like you said, those guys will always be around. The guy just loves to look back and look at that roof like, "Man, this is some straight lines. Like, that looks great." Like, it's, you always will have that, man. And like, that brings joy, you know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of guys forget. You know, you get in a day to day, and, you know, that's why I still get in there. You know, I still get in the guys. I still go do sales. I still do business development because I just love it, you know. And I think when the guys forget that, you know, like down the road, and, you know, like I'll still always be in it. Like, I just would never let it go. And, you know, probably get into teaching and developing guys more. But I think that's where I give a guy's advice is like, don't forget that, you know.
are you taking people right now? You want to coach people? Somebody says, "Hey, listen, I want to learn more about that."
So we're training. So if you guys want to learn, you know, my big thing right now is trying to find veterans. You know, we're working with guys. You know, we have a guy coming in. So I've trained 5 guys, one homeless. Came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you got any work?" I was like, "Pay $125 a day." Found out his daughter's autistic. His you know, situation got bad, getting evicted. I was like, "I'm gonna take you under my wing." And I trained for 6 months and I let him go. And he called me a year later. He's like, "Tim, I didn't tell you the story. That's how bad it was. I want to tell you, man, what took my daughter to Target today." And I told her to fill the carts. He's like, "I made $1 million this year." And I never asked the guy for a dime. Didn't ask for coach. You know, I didn't say, "Hey, pay me to coach you." But when he called me, that was my payment. You know what I mean? And
Beautiful.
Yeah.
and when that guy would call me, "Hey, Tim, I got a job I can't handle. Let's work together." That's, you know, I mean, you're gonna make some money. I'm gonna make some money. Lifting guys up is so big. So with the school, we're trying to, you know, develop the nonprofit and getting stuff going with the veterans. And we have a DeLorean. We're actually converted to a movie car, so it's gonna be Veterans to the Future and Homeless to the Future. So like, we're a couple cars away from actually getting the car finished. We just filmed the dealership. We're actually converting the movie car. So that's where I want to do and help guys. You know what I mean? It's like, and help guys better themselves, right? So that, yeah, if you're a veteran, if you're homeless, if you know somebody that's, you know, having some problems, call us. You know what I mean? I would love to work with you. There's a program we have where, like, you know, the number one reason why men are homeless is child support. It's like number 1 or 2 why people are homeless. They lose their license, they're 80 grand in the rears. So there's actually a program before they come to us to train you to actually get you back, get your license back, get everything back. So like, that's the stuff that Jason and I are working on to help those guys, right? So like, I would love to, you know, raise some money to get guys going, and if you want to be involved, or if you,
Listen,
yeah.
Tim, I got a follow-up question for that, because there's going to be a guy who watches this, I know it, and he's going to think, "Man, you don't know me, man. I made too many mistakes, Tim. Screwed around in my life. I've cheated. I've lied. I've been crimes. You know, you name it. Okay. Mm-hmm. You don't understand, man. I can't do. You want to take me. You wouldn't want to talk to me. You know, have you worked with guys like that, man?
Absolutely.
Because I got to think that there's a man out there who's just thinking, "Man, I've just made too many mistakes. I'm
Absolutely.
just too far gone."
You know, I worked with guys that, you know, have been in jail 15 years. I've had guys that are drug addicts. You know, I've had guys that are just, you know, like done things you know, would be shocked, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing for me, and I think that, you know, coming back from that religious background, like I was born in South America, my grandfather was a missionary, is, you know, it's like getting baptized, right? Like we've all had bad times. We've all been suicidal or, you know, done things we shouldn't done or, you know, drinking when you shouldn't drink. And if you don't forget that we're all human and that you can, you know, get in that water, jump up and like, you can't judge a man because that guy could be the best thing that ever happened to me. You know what I mean? So like I look at guys and it's like, hey, this is where you're at, but he could be the best thing that happens to me. You know what I mean? So like that's big.
It's like that sticker on the back of the car. Who I see the dog, and it's like, "Who rescued you?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I love that sticker.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would love to. I would love if you guys can, you know, maybe put my email down and get some guys in.
There could even be
We'll
some
take
viewership that's watching this that might be in the roofing or building envelope space that's interested in learning how to do the fire and water.
Yeah.
Connected and getting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe guys like that.
Yeah. And I'm looking at mentor some guys, you know, like if you want to get mentored, you know, I'm going to probably take one or two guys on,
I love it.
you know, and
Put your information on.
yeah.
I want to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming out here today, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. My question for you is a little bit different. I wanted to ask you this for a couple weeks now.
Okay.
Actually, since last week. All right, because I thought you might come on now, so whatever. I'm gonna get a chance to ask you now.
Yeah.
All right. This is gonna sound kind of weird.
Oh boy.
I know, but
Here we go.
oh, yeah.
My bad, Jason.
So
Wind it up.
no. In a way, I guess my question for you is, man, why can't I find anybody that says something negative about you? It's very interesting to me. In this industry, you can walk and find probably a contractor in Orlando to say something bad about me, all right? But I'll talk to people like Corey Combs this morning. I go talk to Dmitry Lipinski about you. I go talk to all these people, and for some reason, man, they all say good things about you. And last night I'm talking to Lord Big Time.
Good stuff.
Like I'm talking to all these different personalities, right? And I just can't figure. I mean, like you just must be doing something right, and not piss anybody off or you pay people well. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm impressed with it so far. I'm intrigued with it as well, and I mean this in a complimentary way. But what is it? But I also want to know because I'm curious.
Yeah.
There's got to be something you're doing different, or something you've adhered to. Some principle that you've said, hey, listen, I'm never going to go away from.
Yep.
Because people from a lot of different walks of life at different places in their business in different parts of the country,
Yep.
all seem to have an immense amount of respect for you.
Right. Well, it's real simple. First of all, I start on the floor in the morning. I say, thank you, Lord, for another day of life. Thank you for my beautiful wife. Thank you for all my partners, my vendors. I have a very successful business because of my vendors, because of my clients, right? It's all relationship built. So when I get up in the morning, I say, who can I provide value to today? Who can I provide value to? I never ask anybody for anything, right, Tim? I say, what can I do for you today? And that value lead always comes back with a blessing in return, always, right? So I have a double master's degree in kingdom development and learning how to walk in humility with the Lord, because I wasn't always that guy when I was on partying and riding Harleys and, you know, drugs and rock and roll and like crazy stuff. And like, but one thing that I never, ever gave up with was excellence in business. I made tons of mistakes, no question. We all do, right? And especially when in a high volume game. But the reality is, I'd go out at 2, 3 in the morning if my client said, hey, I got a problem, Brady. No problem. I'm on my way over there. I'd leave from the bar and go to the client's house. Probably wasn't the smartest thing, but I'd climb on the roof, pulling a stick out of their skylight if I have to, right? And if I did something wrong, I mean, there's many times I'd put the roof on the wrong house. Go freaking change the freaking roof. Hey, you're welcome. like the color, because I got to put that color on my client's house next door.
I'm doing a buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one. So it's always about providing value. And, you know, it's my 40th year, and the good Lord has a bigger plan, and it doesn't have to do with just property restoration. It's about personal restoration. And I'm here to help and speak into people's lives. And the reality is a coach doesn't care about the money. A coach cares about the value for the relationships he can build. So I don't need anything. I don't need money. I got a big, beautiful wife, great family. Lord is good. I'm home. I was on the road for 10 years, building what I'm eating off today. So at the end of the day, I wake up and I just go hit the CrossFit, have some breakfast, work for a few hours, make a bunch of calls. What can I help you with today? Boom, 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 right? And that's the life of Jason Berg right now.
You're doing something right. I think you're right. Like life has an echo. What you're doing now, and what you'll reap the benefits of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even sooner than that. But you're definitely doing something right. There are a lot of people with different walks of life that surely do have a lot of respect for you. Thank you very much for coming today. I know that you weren't feeling well originally, so thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Final question for you then, Brian, is I've got an interesting one for you.
Oh boy.
I know my final questions are usually that way.
Let's go.
And this is what listen, you're a big target, okay? And you're wearing a green shirt, and you build a brand and stuff like that. You're trying to build a brand in a space where people normally don't like people who try to build brands, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In the next couple of months, or the next 6 months, surely by the end of the year, there are going to be people who say, come on, man, enough of this shit. All right? Like, enough of this. You get enough. The guy on the thing, the shirt, the whole thing is just a big enough. All right? It's just too much. All right? Like, and I think that it's interesting to me. I wonder what you say to those people. Because anybody who tries to do anything in this space, there's going to be a lot of people who try to tear it down. And I also know there's somebody out there who they're thinking about trying something, but they don't want to because they know that they'll get ripped apart by their friends or family or even their coworkers. What do you say to that person who, hey, listen, man, enough, Brian, enough. I don't need to see the logo, the whole thing, the whole glasses thing. I don't need it. So what do you say to that individual?
I would say simply like, why would I stop? Because when I look back at how all of this came to be, like when you put it in perspective, I've only been doing this for about 3-4 months. And I'm sitting at this table with legends doing a podcast, talking about $100 million deals, merger and acquisition, flat out. What other roofing salesperson is able to do that? And I understand from, and people can call it cocky, whatever the case may be. It's about time I actually said something about it. I understand for that same person that's telling me, hey, knock it off. You saw the value in the beginning.
Mm.
So if somebody's going to tell me to stop, that means they're killing the entire value add that I had at the beginning. And what I love about even being here at this podcast and talking with these gentlemen is the mindsets they have right now on how to do sales and business. I was told by a guy like that wasn't the way to do it.
Mm.
And it comes so effortless to me. To be able to go out and take somebody for lunch, to have a relationship, to say, you know what, how are you doing today? This comes natural to me. And for some people, they see that, the guy that says, hey, come on and stop that. Let's be honest, you just can't do it. You can't do it the way that I do it. And I'm even comfortable in the fact of the person that's looking at this, like they thought about doing this, is just start, because you never know what's going to pick up from there. The fact that I was able to call his phone, the fact that I'm sitting with you, the fact that you gave me the opportunity, multiple opportunities, the mutual people we know that we're collaborating on, all because I opened up my mouth and said something, and now you want me to stop? That same person didn't even have the reach of those people that I now gave you access to. No, you stop.
Yeah, really proud of you, man. About 3 or 4 months ago, I was sitting at London having a cigar.
Yeah.
And I get a text from him. It was his first video, I think, that you did under this brand and this name.
Yep.
And he sent it to me, and I said, well, this is good. This is cute. I bet I'll make 2 of these and quit. Because I think that. I mean, when you do this media game long enough, and your father knows this, you see people come and go.
Yeah.
You know, someone starts something, then they stop because they don't get thousands or millions of views off the first time. And I thought to myself, Brian, gosh, really cool for him. I said, that's nice that you're doing this, but great. Call me when you've done 30 of these videos. And you kept on doing it, man. And as a friend, I'm really proud of what you've been able to do. I mean, it's really impressive. We didn't get a chance to dive into your story, but to go from going back home, you come back and you're doing this, man, and you really are.
Well, let me clear
proud
this
of
up
you.
because I actually never left. So when I bought the tire shop, and if we're getting into the deep dives of it, the reason why I got the tire shop is because, from my understanding, I had signed a non-compete that I couldn't be in the roofing industry. So not only is it like I spent 6 years doing this thing and I was building up a business to now I'm completely blocked from it. So it's like I have to find another way, a source of income. So I got the opportunity and got my finances together, pulled a trigger, and basically got something just to bring something in. And then I actually took on a short tenure as a recruiter for a roofing company in Atlanta. So I was here the entire time. I was just basically hustling, trying to get it till I got back. So once that year expired or everything ended up happening with the company where it was, and I got that free pass, I'm like, oh, I'm doing this my way. Like I'm opening it up in any and every fashion that I can. So I never really left. I just kind of basically fell back because I didn't know what blowback was going to be because now that curtain was starting to unveil itself. And, I wasn't just a regular guy there. Like, I mean, if you take that full year, bro, there's so many people I had to go back and apologize to and basically swallow my pride and just kind of make things right, which I have no problem doing because I've never had the intention of I wanted to take something off of anybody's plate. Like, you know me. If I can help, that's what I'm doing. I don't need no kickback. The same way you guys, I'm not even in your position. And I'm just like, hey, however I can help at the end of the day, because the blessing comes back.
Yep.
I've never been without, even throughout everything I've been through. The 2 years that you said that I've been working back and forth, having stress, maybe felt like a little bit of sweat, but I've never been without, never missed a meal, never missed a payment, never had to worry about my house being taken, never worried about my son having issues, my wife, none of that. So I've been blessed in many facts. So the more that I get, yes, I'm going to give it out away. And I'm just going to keep growing and getting bigger from there. Like man on the roof.
Well,
Yeah.
two things. First of all, it doesn't take away from your story. So second thing, I think it's still great, and I think you will keep on growing. Thank you, gentlemen, for stopping by.
Yeah.
It is a Friday afternoon, so I mean, I know that everyone's got something to do on a Friday afternoon, so thank you all very much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks, Albert. I appreciate it, man. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan, appreciate it.
Appreciate it,
Been a
guys.
pleasure.